Good morning, everyone. Donovan here, Martial Arts Business Made Easy, and we're going over curriculum experiences for martial arts schools. All right, so we're just about done here. We are in week 11. I hope you guys have enjoyed this course as much as I have. We have learned a lot of information about school owners and working with you individually. Today we're going to go over curriculum experience. So again, just to let you know, we're going to do some precursors first to get everything out of the way. So what I mean by that is, in no way am I saying that my curriculum is the best and it is perfect. Okay, so the curriculum it really is your program, right? So it's your personality, it's your experiences as a martial arts instructor. It is what makes your school special. So I don't think you should copy mine specifically. However, I hope you can use it as an example. All right. Again, we all teach varying styles of martial arts. I know we have karate schools, we have taekwondo schools, we have BJJ schools. So, we have a lot of different curriculum. So you can't copy mine to the T, but hopefully, like I said, it will give you an example. Our focuses are different, so just tweak it to make it work for you. This week of martial arts this week of material is not meant to bash any school owner or participants in this course. All right, guys. So I would encourage you guys to upload your own curriculum into the group and have others take a look at it. I think we can definitely steal some ideas from each other and share ideas, but please remain respectful. This week's material is just meant to show you guys how I program, how my staff programs, how we rotate curriculum, and how we hope to just keep our students engaged, eager to learn, so they keep coming back and that they refer their friends. All right, so common denominators of successful schools. Typically, schools that are successful have a rotating curriculum, and they keep things that are fun and relevant. All right, so we want to rotate each week, each day. There's a couple different ways you can do this, and I'll show you what I mean. Definitely employ mat chats to help students embody good character skills. So probably one of the most overlooked things in martial arts. I know we didn't really do it when I was growing up, and I don't think really any school that I've worked with has really done mat chats, but I think everyone agrees they're good. We need to do them, but it's not something people tend to schedule into their curriculum. So it's something that we do schedule on a daily basis, and I'm going to tell you why. All right, so classes are game-based and involve both sides of the student's brain. All right, so people learn differently. All right, so one side of the brain is meant for, activity, learning, hands-on, and one side is like visualization and creativity, right? So we want to be able to use both sides of the brain to keep the students engaged. Workouts tend to be partner-based so that we can foster our community and we can help referrals come in. And then also, very important here, have a clearly defined path from white belt to black belt. I've seen a lot of different schools. I think that's a big problem a lot of jiu-jitsu schools tend to have is, it takes 5 to 10 years to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu, maybe even longer. There's not normally a clearly defined path of white belt to your next belt. How do you get those tips? It's not like you master this movement and you get a tip. So I think it's something they've had some issues, with. We do have a school here in Charleston that is a jiu-jitsu school. It's an American top team school, and they have created a belt system for their kids program, and they are crushing it. So it definitely works. Kids today they understand if I learn this, I get a good grade on this quiz or test, and then I move to the next grade. I pass that class and move to the next grade. Everything is based off of levels. Video games, right? Beat this level, move to the next level. It's the same thing. It works really well with our current society to have levels and systems that we can allow our students to grow and see that clear path. They can see the finish line. It's like going for a run. You're going to run the Disney half marathon and you get there, but you're not exactly sure when the finish line is. You're just going to run for about 13 or 14 miles. And, it just doesn't make sense, right? We need a clearly defined start path, in path, and they even need those markers along the way just to let you know where you're going. All right, so rotating curriculum. Our curriculum personally rotates every week and it rotates daily to keep students excited to return. What I mean by that is, depending on the week, we might be focusing on forms this week. We might be focusing on kicking one week. We might be focusing on our Cali sticks one week, or self-defense, or sparring. We have a couple different things that we can focus on, but we rotate every day, and I'll show you our daily rotations. We also having a rotating curriculum creates a format that breaks down weekly and daily plans for each class. Okay, so it's an easy way for your staff to come in. They're not going to get bored teaching the same thing over and over, and it's a good way for your staff to know what's coming tomorrow or what's coming next week, and it keeps them focused and eager to teach as well. Remember, if your staff is on point and teaching amazing classes, they are going to teach. Amazing classes are going to want to. Your students are going to want to keep coming back. All right. So if your staff is excited to share the material, then the students are going to be eager to soak it in. All right, so the curriculum needs to be easy to read and understand from the instructor position. The reason we do ours this way is because, like for example, this weekend is state championships for South Carolina, and it's a few hours away from us. So I'm actually leaving Friday, but we still have class on Friday and Saturday in our Taekwondo school, so I will miss both those classes. Because of our rotating curriculum and the systems we have in place with our instructor training program, all I have to do is move the next man up. They just follow the instructions for class. Pretty easy to do. Classes are broken into time blocks so that we stay efficient with our time. And I'll show you exactly what we mean by that. All instructors check the daily plan so they know their role. Your plan for each class might be different. If we have one person, leading a class, that their next class, they might be a floater or they might be kind of a secondary role. So we have to make sure that all the staff are on point for what their role is during that class. Having a class planner allows you to hit all important areas for class. So it makes sure that we're hitting the mat chats, we're hitting the kicking, we're hitting the forms, we're doing the announcements. We basically just follow this checklist and everything gets done properly. So here's kind of an example of what we use, okay? So you can take a look here. It's broken up by class. We have little tigers, white, yellow, green, blue, red, black, and family. So we bow in and we do a quick mat chat. We knock that out of the way because why? It's the most important thing in our classes. So we talk about the mat chat. You can see here, this would be a laminated piece of paper. We don't print out a piece of paper every day. We just basically laminate a piece of paper. Our head instructor will come through and write down what is, the focus of today with a Sharpie or with a temporary marker, and we basically update this every day. So the mat chat is just courtesy. So it's up to our instructors to engage the students with a mat chat that talks about being courteous and showing, a courteous lifestyle, showing a courteous behavior to their friends. And then we might, depending on the day, it might say talk about examples or talk about family or talk about school or talk about the Taekwondo school. So what we want to do is we want to basically ask someone, just start it out, hey, what is courtesy? It's not like we're sitting here giving a 5-minute lecture to children on courtesy. We really want it to be a banter, a back and forth. So we ask them, hey, what's courtesy? And we, the kids shoot their hands up and then we keep going around. We get a couple different answers and then and then we will go in and just kind of dive in, like how can you be courteous to your parents, right? How can you be courteous to your teacher at school? How can you be courteous to your teammates in Taekwondo class? And we just have them raise their hands and answer these questions. Guys, these kids are smart. They know these answers, right? It's just like adults. We know we should eat healthy. We know we should get enough sleep. We know we should drink plenty of water. We still don't do it. It's great to get the reminders. So same thing with the kids. They know these answers. We just need to talk about it, right? And parents love to see that you're talking about this stuff. We all agree that you learn a ton, you learn a ton of valuable lessons in sports. However, most sports do not allot time to talk about this, to talk about courtesy, to talk about teamwork, to talk about indomitable spirit. A lot of us, we have those 5 tenets of Taekwondo on the wall, but we never really touch them. This is a great chance to do that. Next, we follow with a warm-up, and it will be different. Our little tigers are our 3 to 5 year olds. We do a statue game, and I'll explain in a second what the statue game is. We do a game with them. And then the rest of the classes, we will do line drills. So our instructors know, depending on the belt level, white, yellow, they're doing pretty basic kind of line drills. Green, blue is a little more advanced. Red, black belt are very advanced. And then family class, we just keep it light and fun-hearted. All right, section A here, 10 minutes. So we have an obstacle course for the little tigers. And then for white, yellow belt, we're doing Pumse in small groups. All right, green and blue belt, we're doing Pumse in small groups as well. And then red, black belt, we're doing Pumse for the entire class. So at this point, we want them to be able to work in a mass quantity of people with teamwork. Our teamwork should be a little bit better in the red, black belt class. So we're working on that there. And then family class, we're working on Pumse partner drills. So with our family class, it is typically parents that come in with their children, or it's friends that come in. We have a lot of just kind of pockets of people that come to those classes. So we, again, want to partner them up to create a better sense of community. Section B is our kicking section. So Little Tigers are working on balance beams and kicking. So we have little balance beams like gymnastic beams that we use, and we have them practice kicking on a balance beam to work on their balance and work on their focus. All right, white yellow belt class is working on bag kicking. So with them, we just use the Century Wave Masters. They work great. We use them so that the kids can just focus on kicking, but they're not worried about holding yet, right? Just focus on the technique of the kick. All right, for green blue belt, we start moving into paddles or shields or hand targets. We have them working together as a partner. So again, we're starting to introduce partner work and smaller targets, the paddles. All right, red black belt, we're going to work on spinning hook kick technique today. So an advanced kick as well as a small target. And we'll do different types of drills with spinning hook kicks. And then for family class, partner bag kicking. So we'll put them into groups of 3 or 4. And then we'll break them up into wave masters or shields and then have them, again, working in partners. All right. And then at the end, we always finish with some type of game if we have time. We try to allot time just to make sure we're getting everything done here. We have Ninja Turtle, which is just like Duck, Duck, Goose for our little tigers. If you have not done that, please do it with your kids. They absolutely love it. It's such a simple game, but the kids love it. Again, we're doing in white yellow belt class. If you have 30 or 40 kids in class, like our classes will, it's not uncommon for the white yellow belt to have 40 kids in that class. We'll break them into like 10, 4 groups of 10 or something like that. So we break them into smaller groups so every kid has an opportunity to play the Ninja Turtle. Green blue will play dodgeball. Red black belt will play dodgeball. The kids now have a little bit more sense of awareness. We do play those games in Little Tigers and White Yellow. We do play dodgeball in those classes as well, just not as much. And then the family class, we have Farmers and Lumberjacks. So what we do with Farmers and Lumberjacks is we'll take cones, right, like little orange cones that you use for drills. And if they're planted, that is a farmer. And if they're knocked over, that is a lumberjack. So we will split the class in, say there's 10 kids, or 10 people in class, we'll have 5 on one side, 5 on the other. 5 are farmers. They want to basically plant the cones upright. The lumberjacks want to chop them down, so they want to knock them over. So we just keep doing that for roughly a minute. We let them go at it, and then at the end, if there's more cones up or down, you have a winner, right? And we have a burpee penalty or something like that for the losing team. And then we have a slot here for announcements at the end. Hey guys, belt testing is next week. We have no regular class on Thursday. Also, our winter break summer camp is coming up, so make sure you get signed up. And then we basically repeat those announcements throughout the class. All right, and then we have instructor notes at the bottom. All right, so the notes here for this on the side. All right, so make sure, again, you laminate a page so you can reuse it so you don't have to print out something every day. Update the info each day so that your team knows what that day looks like. This should be done before people get there so that way the team can take a look at it, study it, and ask any questions. All right, be sure in that note section that you add any important focuses. Like, hey guys, we're doing Poomsae today, even though we're doing small groups, entire class, Poomsae partner drills. Our focus on Poomsae today is stances, right? We really want to go over stances. So make sure everyone knows that. Back kicking drills should be this. All right, we're working on balance. So we want everyone to work on, keeping the front leg up and kicking multiple times with that front leg before placing it down. Our mat chat focus is courtesy, but we're going to talk about how to be courteous at school. So give them a little extra note so they have, they can go in well prepared. We keep a binder next to this every day. It has all of our games and warm-ups with an explanation, and it's at our instructor station. So, say an instructor comes in or a new leadership team member, like, hey, you're leading the warm-up for line drills in white yellow belt class. And they're like, oh my God, what should I do? They can just reference that binder, and it has all approved line drills for our white to yellow belt classes. Pretty cool, right? All right, guys, so for rotating curriculum, again, this is a guideline that we follow to ensure we're creating a well-rounded experience for all of our students. However, the head instructor does have the ability to call an audible and course correct if there is an issue. So, I only teach the sparring classes on Fridays and Saturdays. I try to, again, follow a very similar type of outline. But again, I am known to audible and course correct. So I like to change it up just to make sure everyone's on the same page. And to give you an example here, if students are not showing good self-control during back kicking, we will stop. I will address self-control, and I'm going to use this as a learning experience. If you don't have self-control in sparring, you get kicked in the face. It's not so fun. Whereas if we don't have self-control in bag kicking, the kids, it's not a big deal. However, I try to relate it to something that they can understand and why it's important to bring them back. I remember at Master Kids in Greenville, one day when I was younger, I was 17, we were teaching class, and he didn't think the kids were focused enough. So literally the kids went to a push-up position, and they stayed in that push-up position for probably like 40 minutes. And I remember thinking, these kids will probably never make that same mistake again. Not necessarily we should have kids in push-up positions for 40 minutes. However, the point is you are the head instructor. You should be able to control that experience, and that's on you. Another example is if belt testing week is coming up, you might want to, hey, we're a little behind on testing. We want to focus a lot more on our curriculum versus kicking. So we call an audible, and there's no kicking today. We're just doing curriculum the entire time. So you have the ability to make changes. All right, when it comes to mat chats, again, these are probably the most important piece of your curriculum, but they are often overlooked. All right, what makes the martial arts so unique is our focus on character development. And I think everyone across the board can agree with that. But we tend to focus on physical attributes like kicking, punching, yelling, obstacle games, running, jumping. We don't really focus a lot on the mat chats. I think it needs to be focused on much, much more. Remember, guys, we are a character development center that teaches martial arts, and it's not the other way around. We are not just a martial arts school. I want people, when they think of martial arts, heck yeah, Charleston Taekwondo is absolutely the best. When they think of, man, my kid needs some self-development, my kid needs to learn how to focus, I want them to think of us as well. All right, so we are a character development center that teaches martial arts, not a martial arts school that teaches character development. First and foremost, we want people to be good people. All right, start with the tenets of Taekwondo. All right, teach them on a personal level. How have you had to be courteous to someone? How have you had to have integrity? Give an example of you having perseverance or indomitable spirit. How can those tenets relate to the lives of your students? A lot of times we don't know what to say. Guys, just tell a personal story. Tell them your story. I'm sure there's a time in martial arts at some point where you had a struggle or a challenge doing something and you had to persevere to get through it. All right, just tell your stories or use stories of your children themselves or use story of your students overcoming challenges. These are just great material. All right, let's use Floyd Mayweather, for example, right? Facts. Probably the greatest boxer of all time, right? At least statistically, the man is undefeated. He has produced hundreds of millions of dollars, not 100. I think he has multiple fights that have produced him over $100 million. So probably $500 million this guy's made purely from fighting, all right? Greatest fighter of all time. However, he has also been arrested multiple times for domestic violence, for hitting women, hitting children, openly disrespectful to his opponents, his spouse, his father, his uncle. We can all agree he's not probably the greatest person. He's not the person you want to teach your child about respect, right? And maybe he is doing it just to get, ticket sales. I understand that. However, he did not get arrested for domestic violence to increase ticket sales. All right, the point here is your skill as a fighter has zero to do with the quality of your character. Right? If your sidekick is the best sidekick in the entire world, it has nothing to do with you being a good person and holding the door for someone that's older than you. Right? So again, we want our students to be good people. We want to be a part of that development process. Of course, we want them to be athletic, and of course, we want them to be successful in martial arts and in competitions. However, number one focus is creating a great environment for our children to grow, to prosper, to become better people. That's what we want. Again, the most important thing you can do is teach your students how to be a good person, because that is going to affect them later in life. All right, and remember, there's different types of learning. So when you're teaching your curriculum, people learn in many different ways. The three main learning types are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. All right, visual learners think, learn, and relate to the world through pictures and images. To learn, they're going to need to see a task being completed. So they need to watch something happen so that they can repeat that process. Auditory learners rely heavily on verbal communication to learn. All right, they work best when they can talk through something, so they can have an instructor there to help them walk through the process, because they create, the visual process, the visual portion of learning in their own mind. Right? Kinesthetic learners need to move. They learn best by doing and trying a task. These are people that, instead of explaining how to shoot a jump shot or showing them how to shoot a jump shot, just give them the basketball and let them take the shot, and they'll just keep doing it over and over, and they'll get better and better. All right, so guys, think about when you're teaching all of your students. If you have 30 kids in a class, it's probably safe to say, there's 10 of each, right? So we have to make sure that we're teaching in a way that all students are able to learn the material. So when it comes to explaining movements or drills, all right, ensure that you're showing and explaining the movements you expect students to follow. All right, so they need to be able to see it and explain it. You have to do both at the same time. All right, so you can show everything, or you can have a leadership team member show something. However, you can also bring students out. So that keeps them engaged and it keeps them focused on being able to, explain that movement or show the movement. All right, and it's important to give them a chance to try something. And if they fail, it's okay. Let them try again. Hopefully they learn something. And then we're just going to repeat that process over and over. Again, that's for those kinesthetic learners, right? They need to try, fail, try, fail. They need to keep doing it until they get better and better. All right, and remember, when giving correction cues, keep it very simple and one correction at a time. Don't tell them, hey, you're losing your balance kicking because you're not turning your foot and you're leaning over and your eyes are looking to the ground. We can't give them too many corrections, especially as adults, but kids are not focused on all these different corrections. People can only focus on one correction at a time. All right, so for example, though, say a student needs multiple corrections. Just rate them in the order of what's needed, okay? So this does become a skill over time. Just find the correction that fixes, potentially more than one problem. So if you tell them, hey, turn your hip over, and then maybe they're not having an issue with their eyes or something like that, but hey, if you turn your hip over, it's also going to fix this and this, right? So just focus on that one thing at a time before we move to the second correction. If they're already having a challenge with a kick or with a move, giving them multiple corrections is only going to make it more challenging. It's not going to fix the problem. So keep it simple always. All right, game-based learning. All right, so we use game-based learning in every class to keep our students engaged. All right, so using obstacle courses, balls, balance beams, noodles, any accessory equipment you can think of, rings, it's a great way to engage your students and create a fun learning environment. So we use all of this stuff. It almost looks like a freaking gymnastics gym in our school sometimes because we'll have the balls out. We get those from Walmart, right? Balance beams, we order those online. Noodles are just our pool noodles. We use those for classes. Again, we use rings and pads and blocks. We use all kinds of different things to help our students learn. And I'll give you an example here. All right, so say today's mat chat is self-control. All right, so we spent 5 minutes going over self-control and why it's important. Why it's important for school, for the Taekwondo school, and at home with mom and dad. All right, so for example, we want to use a game that shows how self-control works. So they can physically, actually practice their self-control. And this is a great drill that you can use for parents to be like, holy crap, my kid is literally getting better in front of my eyes. All right, we call it the statue game. Excuse me. We do this a lot with our little tigers, but I do it even with our white yellow belt class, green blue belt class, the same. All right, so statue game. Have students stand in various positions for 1 minute at a time. If they move, they are out. Increase the difficulty of the movements until you have a winner. So for example, we might start at just attention, right? So everyone chariot, and then they stand at attention. We're gonna go for 1 minute. If anyone wiggles their head, their ears, they scratch their nose, their fingers wiggle, their toes wiggle, they are out. So they will have a seat. And at the end of it, right, okay, everybody break in, relax. All right, guys. So everyone have a seat. Little Johnny, you were wiggling, man. What happened? Why'd you get out? And then he'll say, my nose itched. I'm like, all right, were you practicing self-control? No. All right, cool. Yeah, all right, we got to practice that self-control, little Johnny. All right, guys, next we're going to horse riding stance. So everyone's a little bit more challenging, right? Now they have to stay in the horse riding stance. Keep those knees bent the entire time. Same thing for 1 minute. Another way you can do it more challenging is have the students raise 1 foot off the ground. Allow them, say, hey, you can hop a little bit, but we really want to try to not move at all and focus. If the foot touches the ground, you are out. So there's a couple different ways you can do the statue game, and it's cool because the kids are physically, like, they're focused, their mind, body, connection is working to focus on this drill, to focus on this task to win the game. And it's funny because parents get to physically see their child getting better at self-control. And I always tell the parents, self-control is just like anything else. It's a skill. It's a learned skill. The more you practice throwing a baseball, the better you get at the baseball, right? The more you practice kicking, the better you get at it. The more you practice self-control, the better you get at it. So we just showed them, hey, there's games that you can do even at home to help your children get better at focus and self-control. All right, so building your community. So curriculum needs to, it's not just kicking and punching, right? It's, making our students better people. It's also building our community. All right, so a sense of community is a feeling that members have of belonging, a feeling that members matter to one another and to the group, and a shared faith that members' needs will be met through their commitment to be together, right? This is tribal. Human beings are very tribal people, so we want to build our community. All right, the two most important factors in building a community are a membership and a shared emotional connections. Okay, so memberships, a sense of belonging, part of that community, right? Being a part of that family. Boundaries, including identifying people who belong to you and even people who don't. We've all had students that come into your program that just don't really mesh with your community, and that is totally fine. Okay, we want to have those boundaries that allow us to know who fits in our community and who does not fit in our community. All right, shared emotional connections, commitment and belief that a community has a history, a common place, shared events, time together, and similar experiences. So how do we create these? Member events, right? Creating curriculum that is partner-based. Make sure we're doing those summer kickoff parties, we're doing those back to school parties, we're doing Christmas parties, we're doing Halloween parties. We're creating commonplace, your school, shared events, right? Those events that we're doing together, time together, getting them to learn each other. They are having similar experiences, right, in the history of your program. Charleston Taekwondo is now in our third location. We keep growing, right? But our members, our ones who were there from the second one, and even the first school, our first initial school, the families, they talk about that first place. Can't believe we came from 1,000 square feet. Now we're in 7,500 square foot, right? The parents love just having that history together. It's very, very close. All right, so partner-based classes. Whenever possible, we always partner our classes up. We basically encourage them to meet other people or bring friends, right? So again, going over the benefits here of partner-based classes creates a sense of community, just like we talked about. It builds those relationships, make you stronger because you're learning together. It gets members out of their shell, so shy people will make friends, right? And encourage them to interact with other students. Another good focus for you, a good point for you, is the fact that it only takes half the equipment. All right, so if you're doing shields, everyone doesn't need a shield. You only need half as much. All right, if we're doing any type of ball balance drills, there's a ton of things we can do, but half the equipment is needed because you're using partners. Increases the lifetime value of a member. So again, the more people feel part of that community, the longer they will stay in your program, which puts more money in your pocket. All right, and it also increases signups to referrals. So even if you go to the school and you're doing partner-based drills, you're making friends, that's cool. However, I'm like, I think my friend Johnny would love to do this, and I'm working out anyway. I want him to be my partner when I'm kicking. So it's going to increase your signups through referrals. Anything that you can do to build that partner-based, build that community is going to be good for your program because people are going to be more likely to bring their friends. All right, using tips to keep coming them back. Like most martial arts schools, we use tips or stripes to reward students for their learning. When I first started out, we just used 4 tips. We got a form tip, terminology tip, physical tip, and board breaking. So we would test them on their form. If they had that, boom, they got a tip. Terminology would be their different, Korean terminology. We would have them counting to 10, attention, bow, ready stance, all the different things in Korean, different terminology there. Their physical gets increasingly difficult, and then their board breaking is their board break for their belt. We have since moved to 6 tips. So now we do form, terminology, physical, board breaking, kicks. So we make sure they know the kicks for their appropriate belt level, and then a focus tip. And we make it more challenging, and a lot of times we just use those statue games, very drills for the statue game to practice focus. All right, the more tips we offer, the more the students are likely to stay engaged. I'm not saying you should be a tip factory and kids should get 20 tips by any means. However, tips need to be relevant. They need to be earned. Okay, so that's probably step 1 is most important. Tips need to be relevant. Tips need to be earned by the students. All right, in our society today, we're used to a instant gratification lifestyle. All right, kids beat a game, they move on. They beat a game, they move on. All right, to stay relevant in our industry, we need to create a combination that works with that lifestyle. So, again, having kids come in and train for 6 months and then decide, hey guys, you're eligible for your yellow belt is not going to work. Okay. If you grew up without tips like I did, you are the anomaly. The fact that you're still here and you're still teaching martial arts is a testament to your character. All right, so again, make the tips relevant, make them fun, and make them be earned, right? The kids need to earn those tips. But the more we can give, the better. I like 6. I think it's a really good, just kind of that middle number. All right, so clearly defined path. Students need to be able to see a clear path from white belt to black belt. Again, kind of like we talked about earlier, sometimes jiu-jitsu schools have a hard time with this. I think if they built something like this in, I think jiu-jitsu would blow up even more than it already has, which would be crazy, right? So curriculum needs to be measured and consistent. Again, these tips equal you're ready for this belt. You test every 3 months, 5 months, whatever your belt system is. It needs to be consistent. All right, testing cycles need to be consistent and pre-framed. So it's not we can't go back to those days of, all right, you're going to test on Thursday and the kid has no idea what they're getting tested on and just hopefully they pass. All right, so you have these 6 tips. And the reason you have 6 tips is because those are the 6 things that we are testing you on during testing. So make sure that everything is pre-framed. The kids feel confident for testing. People are already having anxiety when it comes to taking tests. We don't want to make it more and more challenging. And again, I personally do not believe in letting a student fail a test. And what I mean by that is just don't let the student take the test. Okay, so if they're not ready for it, tell the parent and tell the student they need a little bit more practice and they can test, next test. However, if you let a kid go out there and bomb it and fail in front of everyone, you're potentially going to lose a student. More students are likely to quit from that than buckling down and working harder. Just my personal opinion. All right, our students are on individual 3-month testing cycles. They should be able to jump in at any time. So that's another low barrier entry. I know a lot of times people will say, we test every 3 months or every quarter we have a testing. Well, the problem is what happens if you come in, the 2 weeks before testing, you're not going to be ready for that testing. And now you have to wait another 3.5 months for testing. It just doesn't really work that well, in my opinion. Okay, so what we do is we have students test every 3 months, but they're on their own testing cycle. So we have a test every month. It also makes it easier if little Johnny has missed a couple weeks this month and is not ready for testing, he can just move into next month's test, right? He's just going to have to wait 4 weeks instead of 3 or 4 months, okay? Another problem we would run into is if we only ran testing 4 times a year, all of our students would test. We'd have 300 people testing. That's a huge endeavor. Whereas if we have testing every 3 months, we have roughly 75 to 100 people testing. So it's a lot easier for us to manage that group of people. All right, and then for us, it takes roughly 3 years to earn a black belt. Not really 3 minus, I would say 3 plus. So for us, a minimum of 3 years is our testing cycles to get to black belt. Usually it takes probably 3.5 to 4 years, depending if the child has stayed on track. But if a kid comes in, works their butt off, does what they're supposed to do, tests on time, they can earn a black belt in 3 years. All right, so your homework for curriculum. I'm going to give you an example of my curriculum. Use mine as an outline. Tweak your own. All right, create a rotating curriculum. Make sure you're not doing the same thing every day. You should have themed weeks, and then each individual day should be slightly different. Make sure your staff knows what they're doing each day. I'm going to give you guys some game-based drills and checklists that you can use for your own classes. All right, create an outline to add mat chats to every class. Make sure you're doing a mat chat. All right, again, just always constantly take a look at your curriculum and reevaluate if you need to change it. The curriculum that you see that is ours currently is definitely not what we started out with. We have tweaked it, we have changed it over the years. This is the meat and potatoes. It basically is the same, but we do tweak it to make it more relevant for our students. So make sure you're constantly taking a look at your curriculum. What are you teaching? Remember, guys, that's it, right? If you go to buy an iPhone, you want the iPhone to work, right? It's the physical product. You are not teaching a physical product, right? Or you're not selling a physical product. You're teaching something. So it needs to be fun. It needs to be relevant, right? Your curriculum and your member experience, right? Your customer service are the 2 biggest factors in determining if someone is going to enjoy your program, if they're going to sign up, and if they're going to stay and refer their friends. So take a look at your curriculum on a regular basis, at least every year. Make sure it's still relevant and works for you and your students. All right, I hope you enjoyed this webinar. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me. I'm always happy to help. See ya.